The Lord is in this place.
So as we get ready for today's meditation, please feel free to relax, listen to your body, and make sure yourself that you're comfortable in this quiet space as we try to awaken the divine feminine, remove any distractions or anything that's going to keep you from focusing and listening intent. Close your eyes if you wish, turning our attention inwardly, simply acknowledging your present mental, emotional, and physical state. Let's take a moment to really feel your body and to connect with any emotions or any mental state you might be experiencing. Pay close attention to your body. Does it feel relaxed? Or is there some tension around? Don't rush to change anything now. Keep yourself open and bold and hold this space for things to be as they are. Even if there's some unpleasant feeling, emotion, or physical sensation, see if you can just observe it without judging it, rejecting it, or pushing it away. Staying mindful and in the present moment. Now we are going to take a few deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, inviting the qualities of clarity and compassion. And exhale through your nose through this time, consciously releasing any tension in your body or any tension in your mind. And again, inhale, invoking feelings of care and self-love. And exhale, letting go of any negative emotions or blockages. Inhale, feeling vital and creative. And exhale, feeling relaxed and rooted. And as your body and mind starts to settle down, reconnect with that vibrant, feminine energy inside of you. Bringing to mind any image that you associate with the archetype of the goddess or the mother. The creative and the intuitive power. Visualize your feminine archetype with an aura of power and strength. But at the same time, with qualities of love, care, and compassion. Feel how nurturing and essential these qualities are, and how the feminine side of you brings balance and space for every other quality to bloom. Allow yourself to feel open and vulnerable to knowing that the divine feminine has also the power to transform and create, to dance and enjoy its own in nature. Let's take a moment to immerse and amplify these feelings and qualities. Express them wholly. Allow them to express through you, unlocking all of your energy of the divine feminine. Give yourself permission to own that power, that abundance. Let it flow through you, expressing it as sensuality and beauty. And feel this energy completely awake, vibrating through your whole body, from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes, bringing balance and alignment. And will make you feel whole. And from this place of wholeness and abundance, listen to these following phrases as if they were coming from within yourself. I am creative, vibrant, and abundant. I have the capacity to care and to hold space. I am loving and compassionate. I am guided by a higher intuition and purpose. I am in communion with the divine feminine. So let these words reverberate within you for a moment. And whenever you are ready to, just take a few breaths, and if you feel like, we can slowly start moving your body, your wrists, shoulders, and slowly opening your eyes.
Welcome back. Thank you. That was very sweet and leading right into my talk today. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, speak about, is the woman behind the stained glass windows. So every Mother's Day, where does our mind usually go? Flowers, Hallmark, candy, plants. Where does your mind go? I stopped at Pick and Save this morning, and people were just walking out with handfuls and handfuls of flowers, and it was lovely. It was very lovely. My good friend Jackie, who has sort of become like a daughter for me, in Wisconsin. I have a mother and a daughter now in Wisconsin, and she's taking me out to brunch and to a movie. So I thought I would stop and get her. She's not a girly girl, so I got her a lavender plant, and I think she has a sunroom in her house where she sits every morning for about an hour or so and looks out at. She has nothing behind her but forest, so I thought I would give her the lavender plant to sit in there for that. And lottery tickets, pray she wins. Okay, so yeah, so we naturally drift then toward these images. We see the greeting cards, right, and the flowers, and pristine living rooms and portraits of motherhood that feel completely untouched by the messy reality of our daily lives. And But perhaps the most famous example of this traditional image would be Mary, the mother of Jesus. And for centuries, art tradition have presented her as this serene, porcelain-skinned face wrapped in flawless blue robes, which is my favorite color, kneeling quietly in a marble cathedral or frozen in a state of perpetual, unblemished calm, looking down at the child. But this Mother's Day, I want to step away from that distant myth part and the rigid tradition lenses that separate her from the living experience. I have an ongoing living experience, and I call for her because you don't have to be Catholic to call for Mother Mary. She is there for all of humanity. And from all of my reading and digging and studying, this is the truth, right? So to truly, though, appreciate her story, the story of many mothers who have shaped history from the margins, we must look at her, or I feel we must look at her from a different perspective. We must look at her past the stained glass to discover a real living woman, which of course she was. So long before she was a theological symbol, she was a gritty first-century Galilean peasant. She was a mother who knew the physical weight of the clay water jars that they had to get every morning balanced on their shoulders, the sting of smoke in her eyes from the cooking fire within the house, and the fine dust of Nazarene hillside between her toes, you know? So according to ancient tradition, she was born to parents, Joachim and Anna, in the region of Galilee. While history celebrated her through high doctrines like the Immaculate Conception, her daily life was defined by harsh, beautiful realities of survival. And before I go on, one thing that I found very interesting was in, I think it was Pope the Ninth in 1854, he decided, of course they have to decide these things, that she couldn't be capable of original sin and carry Jesus. So therefore in 1854, the Pope declared that she was born devoid of original sin. That's amazing how you can sit around, make a statement, and go, okay. So I am devoiding all of you of original sin right now. Okay. So, but by shifting, I thought that was really interesting. Let's just sit down and make a doctrine so it fits the story, right? Right. So by shifting our gaze from the golden altars to the dusty paths of ancient Israel, we find a portrait of motherhood defined by fierce resilience, radical faith, and a profound, quiet courage. She was Miriam by birth. That was her Hebrew name. Her real name was Miriam. And the name carries beautiful meanings: beloved, star of the sea, or wished for child. Each morning reflects not just her role in a grand divine plan, but deeply personal journey of a young girl stepping into the overwhelming terrain of motherhood. So to understand Mary, we must understand the world that shaped her. And she did not raise a family in quiet, prosperous sanctuary, right? She lived and loved on the absolute fringes of brutal Roman Empire. And her home was Nazareth, which was not a bustling holy destination we imagine today, right? But an out-of-the-way agricultural hamlet. It was a tiny village, roughly 200 to 400 people, comprised of 50 simple houses spread across a mere 4 acres of rocky land. In the village of this small, privacy didn't exist. Everyone knew your name, your family, your struggles, your joys. Life was entirely communal, bound tightly by the cycles of the earth, the harvest, and strict religious observation. So Mary grew up then surrounded by hillsides, olive groves, fields of wheat and barley, and it was conservative, isolated place, far removed from the wealth of the political powers then of Jerusalem. Historically, archaeological events include skeleton remains of Galilean women from that era. Gives a vivid picture of what Mary actually looked like. She was not frail. She was not pale, figure of European art. She was a woman of West Asian descent, possessing deep olive skin, dark eyes, and thick dark hair. Furthermore, she was robust, physically strong because of the demands of the manual labor that were put on women of that time. And from a very young age, tradition suggests she was merely 12 to 14 years old when it was announced that she would give birth to Jesus. I mean, think about your children and your grandchildren, and think about the age of 12 and 14 giving birth. But that was the time, right? Tradition says that she was already integrated into heavy workload of a peasant household at the time of conception. So to be a teenage mother in the first century village meant carrying a heavy burden of expectation and vulnerability. Yet it was in this tiny 4-acre world of stone and soil that Mary developed the unbreakable spirit that would actually define her life. The rhythm of a 2-room house. Imagine the physical reality of her home. Mary didn't live in a spacious home with separate rooms for privacy. She lived in a simple 2-structure home built of rough local limestone, mud, mortar. The floors were packed earth covered with woven straw mats. One room was used for sleeping and storing precious tools, grains, jars, and textiles. Imagine your master bedroom right now having attached all your grains, your jars, the garden tools, and textiles. I mean, think about our beautiful master bedrooms that we have, right? So the daily routine of a mother in this environment was exhausting, a marathon of physical endurance. I mean, I can't even imagine. I have trouble getting out of a chair, you know, and can you imagine having to go every day down and get the water and bring it back before you can even start your day? That's what the women had to do, right? So, so long before the sun rose on the hills of Galilee, Mary began the long walks to the village spring, fresh water, hauling heavy water-filled jars back to her home. It was a grueling task, you know, that required immense physical strength and balance. And, you know, I was thinking about this when I was working on this all day on Friday and Saturday, and I'm having trouble opening bottles. And I'm thinking about how did these women, not only Mary, but women of that time, but then you do, I guess, what you have to do, right? So the daily journal was not a chore, though, for her. It was a lifeline for her family. This is what she did. Once home, then the fire had to be tended. Peasant kitchens relied on a small, smoky earthenware stoves fueled by twigs, just dried twigs, dung, and brushwood. Can you imagine bringing dung in our house to cook our food? I've been gagging just from what the farmers are doing out there with the manure. I can't even breathe, right? Oh my God. So Mary spent hours then, after all of that, then she had to grind the grain with heavy stones and make flour for the daily bread, knead the dough, let it rise, bake it over an open flame. So filling the two-room house with comforting, universal scent of fresh bread. And it brings us forward even to the days of the early farmers. And early in the morning, what were those women doing? Baking bread, right? She washed clothes by hand, scrubbing them against stones. I can't even imagine that, right? I don't think they had manicures then either, for sure. She mended coarse wool garments, tended to small household of animals. The beauty of the chaos of her peasant household, her days were a continuous loop of hauling, grinding, sweeping, cooking. There were no modern conveniences to ease her burden, yet she managed this heavy workload by herself, as all women did, while raising a family, anchoring her household with steady, nurturing presence. I'm glad we are here where we are right now, I'll tell you. And she had a radical faith and a revolutionary son. But what makes Mary's story so remarkable is not just that she survived these harsh conditions, but that she nurtured an environment of profound intellectual and spiritual radicalization within her home, which is prevalent for the Jewish people, that is the role of the mother, not the father, of the mother. In quiet evenings under dim light, they had a small olive oil lamp. Mary did not rest. Then she sang and she taught her children all of the Jewish traditions in the Quran, if they still had one then, I'm not sure. I didn't get that far. But we glimpsed though in her inner world through the songs attributed to her, mostly notable, magnificent. This was not a passive lullaby in the Bible. I didn't even know there was a lullaby from Mary in the Bible. And it's a revolutionary anthem. And I don't know why I don't have my notes I did where it is. But she sang about God who looked upon humble and marginalized favor. She sang with divine justice. The activity scatters the proud, scatters the thoughts of the arrogant, topples earthly rulers from their thrones while exalting these low estates. She sang and taught through the singing. She spoke of a God who fills the hungry with good things and sends the rich away empty. There was a spiritual atmosphere in which Jesus was raised. A young mother, Mary, was her son's very first teacher. So she passed down the stories of her ancestors, the strict religious observations of the Jewish faith, and the fierce protective concept of justice. Now, and you've heard me say many times, all of you that have youngsters, share the stories. Let them know about the great-great-grandmother so that the grandmother doesn't forget to tell them. Keep telling your family's stories. Pass it on. There's so much I wish I knew about my grandmother and my great-grandmother. I knew them as alive people, but I didn't know the backstories, and I wished I did. So always share the stories, right? She taught him to see dignity in the poor, and you know that Jesus did see dignity in the poor, the forgotten, the broken, because she herself lived on the margins, right? The revolutionary message that Jesus would later preach across Galilee did not appear out of thin air. It came from his mother, Mother Mary. It was seeded, it was watered and cultivated in that tiny 2-room storehouse in Nazareth, shaped by the voice of a mother who refused to let the weight of the Roman Empire crush her hope. The universal heart of motherhood. When we look at Mary through the historical lens, she becomes infinitely more relatable, comforting, and surprising and inspiring. When I speak to her every day, it's like she is there with me. We talk about everything that I see out my door, and I pray for whatever in the day. Sundays I always pray for all of you in our service and all that is well within these walls, right? She ceases to be distant and untouchable on a pedestal and becomes a sister in the universal journey of motherhood. You know, I went to a neighbor's funeral in the Catholic Church about a month ago, and I just couldn't relate to all that I was seeing. It was so plastic to me, so unreal, right? But every woman in here and every man who has had been the nurturer for whatever reasons, we know the duality of Mary's life. because on one hand, she was just this peasant woman, and on the other hand, she had this son called Jesus. Talk about how do I balance that, right? And we know what it's like to balance the heavy, the mundane weight of daily life, chores with soaring, fiercely protective hopes that we hold for our children. And sometimes we even hold too tight, especially in this environment. Remember when we used to go out and play and we came home when the street lights went on? That's when we came home. With street lights home, you come home, wash your hands, it's dinner. And nobody knew where we were, and nobody was worried, and nobody cared then. We can't do that with our kids now. We can't tell our kids to go out and play. But these kids went out and played. And we understand as the divine feminine, as John was speaking about, we understand the profound courage it takes to bring life into this world and feel the unstable and harsh and unforgiving at the same time. Mary's life reminds us that the truest strength of the mother is really found in moments of grand public recognition, right? All of the things in your life were those beautiful joy moments that you held in celebrations, that first time you saw a child walk, when started talking. My daughter started talking at 18 months and still hasn't stopped. She's a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? But those moments, those define, and they go on and on as your children get over. I just saw my daughter when I was in California, and on her wall in her office she's been accepted into the United States Supreme Court. She can go there and try a case. So even when your kids are adults and older, we have precious moments of them, right? On Mother's Day, we celebrate the women who have loved. They have loved, guided, and sustained us. Let us carry that image, that real Mary within us, and know that you can call to her, and she does hear you. She does hear you. I can vouch for that. I have been doing this for 5 years now, speaking to her every day, always twice a day, but sometimes in times of trouble, more than that, right? Let's honor the mother who possessed olive skin or fair skin and dark eyes, but all who share. Doesn't matter our coloring, it doesn't matter our ethnicity. There is that which within us is that nurture that comes out that second that we see the face of that newborn child. And everyone in here who has given birth knows that. And everyone who has a relative who you go into the hospital and see the face of that child, you know that you will teach those children. We're all responsible. We're all responsible. I was with my friend Doreen in California, and she was talking about her grandchildren, and she says she loves them and stuff, but she still mothers, because if they're screaming in the house, she says, hey, this inside voice, not outside. She said, you can still be a grandmother and be loving, but you still have a responsibility to teach, as far as the parents, of course, will let you. You have to watch that part in there too, right? So, like Mary, with the love of a mother, is not a fragile and delicate thing to be locked away behind glass, behind an image, but a fierce, enduring, capable woman changing the world from a simply 2-room house. It is love that rolls up our sleeves in the face of hardship, is it not? It's love, quietly anchoring our lives with generations that we're responsible for shaping. And right now, all of the love and the beauty that we can give this world, that energy, that vibration, that higher vibration that we put out there, is shaping the generation of our children, right? So this Mother's Day, we honor the timeless, beautiful grit, the ordinary, extraordinary devotion. Every mother who built a sanctuary of hope with their own 2 hands, plants seeds of love, wisdom, strength, integrity to the lives of their children. You are blessed. You too are the Blessed Mother. And thank you. have a beautiful treat of Tom and David are going to sing for us Ave Maria.